And as we head into Wednesday, that's more settled weather becomes more widespread. So Wednesday is looking like a fine day for many of us.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
No one wants their child to be a fussy eater. But what is the secret to expanding your child's culinary horizons?
Is there a way to get kids away from the kids' menu, the fish fingers, the chips? Joining us now is the UK's top-selling author of children's cookery books, Annabelle Carmel. Good morning, Annabelle.
Thank you. So lovely to be here.
So, first of all, what's the issue with kids just having the traditional easy meals like fish fingers, you know, chips, beans?
It really depends if they've got preservatives in them, if they're full of salt. So I like to make them myself, and it's really easy. So I make my own chicken glazed nuggets, and super easy to make using proper pieces of chicken. You can cook them in the air fryer now, which is absolutely brilliant, so you need to fry them. And I think that it's really important that children grow up loving good food, because they make their minds up by the age of 5 what they like and what they don't like, and it's quite difficult to change their minds after that. But it's good to know that fussy eating is genetic. It's not to do with your cooking.
Oh,
that's
right?
Not to say that you can't do something about it. So I've written many, many books, and I have an app with 1,000 recipes on it, and a lot of how to make your own junk food, how to make your own isolis out of fresh fruit.
Yes.
How to make your own pizzas. I make the most amazing homemade pizza. I actually brought you some cookies here.
So these are your books here. So my first cookbook, that's for how old children?
That's from the age of 1.
OK, and you've got a weaning one at the end, the baby one?
Yes, that's my very first book. I lost my first child. It was really sad. She died at the age of 3 months. And my second child was the world's worst eater. And I wrote that book as my legacy to Natasha, never thinking that it would start a whole career.
Oh, bless you.
It sold millions of copies, and it's still popular.
Is it quite pivotal and important that you introduce kids to the weaning stage, or, you know, how important?
It's very important, because the processed weaning food in pouches or jars, it's heated, so a lot of the vitamins aren't there anymore, so making your own is so easy and much cheaper.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And it's just coming up to 11 o'clock on GB News. And in a moment, we have headliners for you. But first, let's bring you the latest news headlines. And in the United States tonight, Donald Trump has formally accepted the Republican nomination for president ahead of the forthcoming US elections in November. And at the same time, he's chosen tonight his running mate, James Vance from Ohio, known as J.D. Vance. That is going to be the vice presidential nomination. Well, tonight, James Vance has walked into a standing ovation at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. If you're watching on television, you can see him there with his wife. Earlier, though, outside, hundreds of both anti-Trump and anti-Biden demonstrators were gathered to protest against what they called racist Trump and genocidal Joe. Meanwhile, Donald Trump won a legal victory earlier on today when a Florida judge threw out a high-profile case against him following hundreds of classified files being located at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Mr. Trump says all other cases against him should now be quickly dismissed, but that decision is likely to be appealed. And earlier on today, President Joe Biden appealed to the American public to lower the political temperature. Speaking from the Oval Office, he called on everyone to take a step back. Joe Biden has faced some criticism for repeatedly claiming Donald Trump posed a threat to democracy. But now he's gone on record as saying it's time to cool it down.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, a God forbid, a killing field.
Well, in news here in the UK, police are scouring a farm in Hertfordshire for the remains of a woman who was murdered back in 1969. Muriel Mackay was kidnapped and held for ransom when she was mistaken for the then wife of the media mogul Rupert Murdoch. Brothers Arthur and Nizamuddin Hussain demanded £1 million for her release. They were later convicted of her kidnap and murder, but her body was never located. Well, new images released today show police officers who've been looking through the dirt inside a barn at the farm in question where Miss Mackay once lived. Police have been clashing with anti-immigration protesters in Dublin today. A number of people were arrested after police and fire service personnel came under attack at a site that's due to be developed to house asylum seekers. A makeshift protest camp was set up several months ago to prevent workers and builders from entering the area. Ireland's Justice Minister says she's appalled by the scenes of protest. And lastly, tonight, the England football squad arrived back at London's Stansted Airport this afternoon. They returned home, of course, following their 2-1 Euros final defeat to Spain yesterday. The Prince and Princess of Wales praised England's grit and determination in a personal message to the team and their manager, Gareth Southgate, who said his squad had given their all.
Our players have been incredible. They've given everybody some incredible nights. They couldn't have given any more in terms of their effort, their desire, their character. Tonight we fell short. We didn't keep the ball well enough. But, you know, the players have pushed it till the 85th minute of the final game. They've been incredible, really.
Gareth Southgate. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Polly. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's newspapers with 3 comedians. I'm Leo Kirsten. Tonight I'm joined by the exceptional wits of Kiri Marks and Nick, the big dog Dixon. How you both doing? I brought back your old nickname.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Feeling pumped. Like
Yeah.
thump, I'm back.
Well, yeah, we're going to be covering Trump, J.D. Vance, his nomination as vice president in a moment. You excited about that, Kiri?
Where's my nickname?
Do you want a nickname?
Yeah, my old one, if you would.
Well, I did have one that was the funniest surviving Marx brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want the one we say about
you? Don't
you?
like it?
No.
Too many words.
Do you want the one we say about you when you're not here?
I know them all. They get back to me.
The nicknames are like pronouns.
That's why I'm
now.
not going to cooperate.
You get to choose your own. Anyway, that's the chit-chat out of the way. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with, "Now doctors are told to lecture us on climate change." The Guardian has, "Trump hits out at witch hunts despite pledge to unite nation." The Times has, "Trump races ahead in key states after shooting." The Express leads with, "Body found in hunt for Jay who fell in accident." The iNews has, "Starmer and Trump start building their special relationship." And finally, the Daily Star has, "I natter with my dearly departed Doddy every diddy day." And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Times. And it looks like the shooting was good news in at least one way for Trump.
Yep, Trump races ahead in key states after shooting. It actually tells us that since March, his polling has gone up in 3 of the 7 swing states, and Michigan Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. But the shooting was undoubtedly good for him. It turns out the public loves someone who gets shot and survives, especially a good punch in the air and that incredibly iconic photo that everyone loves of him. Now, obviously, Biden's increasing incoherence hasn't, it turns out, done him many favours. People, they might find it sweet, but not the greatest thing in a president. And as for the shooting, I don't know. There might be a honeymoon period for that. People get very popular after a thing like this, and it might last for a few months. Really successful being shot in the ear. Maybe if he gets shot in the other ear as well, he'll be the world leader.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there will be other attempts as things get more febrile before the election. But Biden is really rocked. Senior Democrats off record have said that they've basically almost given up. Donors have pulled out of backing Biden. They're already pulling out. Before I think $90 million was withdrawn. I mean, Biden's really going to have to do something radical, like release a sex tape.
Yeah, he's also going to have to get nearly assassinated and get both ears shot out. I don't know. He's going to have to do something very special.
To be honest, I think if you shot his ear, he probably would fall down dead. So that would work.
Or just a gust of wind would probably take him down. Probably shouldn't joke about that in the.
Go for the nose. Go for the nose.
It's a great. I mean, it was a horrible thing. I was on air when it happened. It was a horrible moment. Obviously, I love Trump, but now it's a massive turnaround. It's been a great turnaround because his case was dismissed by the judge.
Yeah.
He's winning in all these key states. Suddenly he's smashing it. Life is a roller coaster, as Ronan Keating once famously sang. And now he's got J.D. Vance as his VP, which is a great pick, right? Because he's a very smart guy. And he's pretty solid on the issues. Some of the really further right people online not too thrilled, but most people are pretty thrilled. Elon Musk chuffed with it. Peter Thiel likes it.
Yeah.
And he's young as well. He's 39. So some people are seeing him as a kind of heir to Trump. I even heard that he's a kind of assassination insurance. This is a mad thing. The idea was, if you get Trump, you're just going to get Vance, who's just as much of a nightmare for the left. So don't even bother shooting Trump, was the idea.
Yeah,
although
it's interesting. Sorry,
he doesn't sound that ideal as a candidate. I mean, he was previously really opposed to Trump and described Donald Trump as a total fraud and a moral disaster.
Yes.
And then, since Trump's inevitability has become apparent, he's suddenly had a change of morals.
Yes, but Trump explained that. He said he said some bad things about me, but then he met me and he fell in love. so there you go. That's what happened.
That is so Trump, isn't it?
He was never Trump. Now he's always Trump.
He was calling Trump Hitler, but also he is a bit extreme, and he's into replacement theories and other strange ideas as well. The Guardian describes him as...
Is it a particularly strange idea? I mean, we've seen hundreds, thousands of migrants flooding across the southern border.
Is that Jews are behind it?
Yeah, but I think people add that onto the theory to discredit it. It's like you can discredit anything.
Really? Because that's what I heard. That's what the theory is, but maybe not.
Leo told me he thinks you're behind it.
Specifically one.
I am. He gets described by the Guardian as a populist right, but then the Guardian, everyone is populist right unless they're actually taking a dump on the Union Jack, so you can't really tell anymore. It's interesting to see who people choose as a running mate, because often it's a bit like comedians choosing a support act. They usually choose someone who's not going to make them look good, who's going to make them look good and is weaken them. So it's an interesting choice for that, I think.
Yeah, it's quite an aggressive choice because he could have gone with a softer choice. People looking at it's not Nikki Haley, which would have been awful. And one good thing about Vance is he's quite anti-war because he was in the Marines at post 9/11. He's like, right, I'm going to join up. Then seeing what it was actually like, he's become quite anti-war. Yeah. And I'm seeing that as quite a good thing.
And Keir Starmer has started building his special relationship with Trump already, apparently, Kerry.
Yeah.
Yes, he has. You're right.
That's my story. Do you want me to do that story then? Is that what you're trying to do? Because I can do that. It's in the eye.
Oh, yeah, sorry. This is yours, Nick.
Yeah, don't worry. We can just give more to Kerry.
I'll do it easily. You have this.
I'll do this one tonight. Thanks, Kerry. So this is just Starmer and Trump start building their new special relationship. It's in the eye, which is sort of a paper. And I like this because Keir Starmer called Trump immediately after the terrible incident. And I really like that he called him. It shows it's just good instincts, especially because his aides were saying, no, just send him a note. And he's like, no, I want to show that it's sincere, so I'll actually call. And it's good. It's also a kind of Blairite pragmatism to say, I can get on with people even if it's Trump. None of this silly stuff we saw from the Lib Dems back when Cable was in charge, like, oh no, Trump shouldn't have a state visit and all this kind of thing. Yeah. It's like, no. One, he's a person. Two, it's the special relationship. And three, it's the President of the United States. So you should always build those relationships. He had the call with Biden as well, but he's going to have the call with Trump. And I really like that. And Trump, this is going to go down so well with him because he loves people who are sort of personally nice to him, basically. Yeah. So they had a up to 10-minute call. And the cool thing about Trump is he's just been shot. he still congratulated Starmer on his victory as well, which I think is pretty classy.
Because he's a classy guy.
Classy guy.
But not everybody in Labour is a fan of Trump. I mean, David Lammy has notoriously...
Not everyone.
Yeah.
I think quite a lot of them
nobody
would have said,
nobody.
Don't call him.
But David Lammy, who's the Foreign Secretary, has tweeted pretty abhorrent things at Trump, calling him a snowflake, and even calling him a snowflake for being worried about being assassinated, which turned out to be a terrible tweet.
Sure, but however Starmer feels about Trump, this was just an adult thing to do, isn't it? I mean, you know, even if someone you don't like has just been shot and they survived, I think it's a nice thing to ring them and ask, are you OK, how are you, and so on. I don't think it's, you know, if he'd snubbed him, that would have been a story. I don't think this is just doing the right thing. And it's weird, if anything, that anyone is even questioning it. But I do find it a little bit tedious, though, the constant special relationships. But it's just a phrase we have to keep saying. And
I think there is that.
It's a bit of the I love you.
There's that shared history, because we invented America. You know what I mean? America's what Britain could be if we weren't so rubbish and communist. But
by the way, Kerry's talking about because it should be obvious, which it should. But the only other world leader that spoke to him apparently was Trudeau, so it wasn't a sort of standard thing to do.
Oh, right.
So it was a good thing to do. But apparently the call ended with Trump saying, "You have to sack Lammy, that total loser."
Really?
No, I've made that up. But it would be
what else could they talk about for 10 minutes?
Total loser.
First two is how that hurt.
We've got Lammy's tweet here, apparently. We can put it up on screen. Maybe we can't.
That's you still, I think. Is that Lammy?
All right. OK. Yeah. And also, Trump's best, closest ally in the UK Parliament is now Nigel Farage. So it's interesting that the Foreign Secretary is making himself an enemy of Trump. And if the UK wants to get America to do anything, to persuade America to do anything, the diplomacy is best going through Nigel Farage. That's kind of rough.
It's clear also everyone's positioning themselves for Trump to be president. They all want to talk to him. They all want to accept that's going to be the fact.
Because it's going to happen. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail, Kerry. What have they got in the front cover?
Let's do the Daily Mail. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Doctors are being told to lecture us on climate change, says the Daily Mail. And it's the Royal College of Physicians who guide telling medics to look out for eco-distress and also talk to us more about, because they mix with the public a lot more, so they're the ideal people to talk to us about climate change. So soon you'll be seeing your doctor and they'll tell you that you've got a fungal infection, and by the way, have you thought about separating your rubbish a bit better? Is the way we're going with this.
Don't use your feet.
Yeah, it calls them to reduce their tell people to reduce their carbon footprint and so on, which I think is going to be a little bit strange to come from your doctor when they don't normally have time to even hear what your symptoms are. But they're also told to look out for people suffering from eco-distress, the name given to anxiety and depression caused by climate change. I accept that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I accept that's the thing. People could have some weird paranoia driven by the left-wing media over climate change.
Paranoia, isn't it? What you should be talking to them about is paranoia.
They should be talking to them about the paranoia. But this idea that this ideology, this climate change ideology, this death cult, should be propagated by civil servants and doctors, they're being told. I mean, a doctor should be completely impartial and shouldn't be teaching about the wonders of the kingdom of Jehovah or any other weird ideology. Not that, sorry if I've offended any Jehovah's Witnesses. I think you're much more sensible than climate change people.
Great point, Leo. We were a few days into a Labour government and doctors are telling you about climate change. It's more dystopian than we could have predicted, right? They're also saying work from home, even though landlords say we don't want people working from home. So they need to work that out as well. Imagine you go to a doctor, if you thought about working from home, your carbon emissions are a bit high. Like, what are you talking about? I've fix my leg.
Yeah, and also, what if you go to the doctor and he says, have you thought about working from home, and you're the receptionist for that doctor? What's he going to do then? Point. Anyway, that's the front pages done. Join us after the break as immigration pushes Britain's population to record levels, and was Trump nearly killed because of diversity hires? Plus, there's good news for Trump as he dodges another bullet. This time, it's a criminal case against him that's been dismissed. See you in a couple of minutes.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Now, it wasn't just us who celebrated the big football match on Saturday. Prince William was in the crowd in Dusseldorf and couldn't help but show his relief when England scored.
And over the weekend, it was also announced that the Prince of Wales is set to star in a new 2-part documentary on ITV covering his mission to try and eradicate homelessness.
Well, let's talk about this and much, much more with Angela Levin, royal biographer, who joins us in the studio. I'm glad to hear that this documentary's been made, Angela, because I worried that he made this big announcement about homelessness, and I thought, goodness me, here is somebody who could maybe do something about this. And then it's all seemed to have gone quiet.
He's been very busy with it, actually. He's gone all over the country to see different areas and how they have been, and to try and change people's attitude to homelessness, that they're people who need help and want to get back into a normal life. I think it was 2009, he slept out in the street to see for himself what it was like. And he also helped people who are selling the magazines, the big issue. So I think he was actually just covering the basic about what it was like for him and how he can now help other people. He and Catherine are putting £3 million straight away into that, and it's going to
Where
be...
does that money come from?
Their own foundation, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not taking it from our tax or anybody else's. He wants to do this so badly because of his mother. You know, she took them to see people who were homeless, and even if he can't do everyone, he can help people be kind and understanding.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers with me, Leo Kirst, joined by Kerry Marks and Nick Dixon. Kicking this section off with the Express, and replacement theory is a far-right myth that says that the West is importing millions of immigrants as native populations dwindle is completely false and racist. In completely unrelated news, Britain's population has hit record levels because of immigration, Kerry.
Yep, they're saying immigration is to blame for the largest rise in 75 years. I didn't know the population can go up by 75 years, but apparently it can. It is now 75 years higher than it was before. Nice. What's actually going on is that everything is going up, by the way, and they're saying that immigration is to blame. The birth rate is down by 21,900. The death rate is also down by 500. I mean, it's increased by less than 21. The death rate, I hope you understood that, is 598,400 new births. So, in other words, it's definitely not anything to do with the difference between birth rates and death rates that's causing us to go up. So when they're saying immigration is to blame, there's no discussion here. It's unless there's a few thousand people who've been kept cryogenically frozen but in a government lab and have just escaped, it's definitely immigration.
Yeah, and the terrifying thing is, I mean, the net migration figure is 622,000, which is a lot, but that's taking away the people who've left the country, because obviously a lot of people are leaving as Britain becomes a degenerate hellhole. And so we're looking at, possibly another 1.2 million like it was last year.
Yeah, we don't know the gross figure, but it's probably gross. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
it's a pun. Yeah, it's absurd. I mean, what we need to do is increase the birth rate, find ways to incentivise that while reducing immigration. But easier said than done. No government's managed to do it. Obviously, Tory's been talking about it since at least 2010.
Yeah.
Never managed to do it. It went up. We need to pick people from countries that are compatible with skills that are relevant. Will Labour do it, is my question, because Blair showed that he was aware of the problem in his Times piece where he was advising Keir Starmer. He's aware of the threat of reform. But is that a very serious threat to Labour? They've just won. They could win even bigger next time. I don't know if they really take it seriously. It's not in Starmer's so-called 5 missions.
Yeah.
Immigration isn't even in there. So you wonder, are Labour the people to get this down? I mean, the Tories didn't either, of course.
Well, most of the Labour Party is ideologically committed to critical race theory and other ideologies that say that we need to destroy Western capitalism, and part of that is, the importation of, they're a pro-immigration party. And also, looking at it electorally, immigrants and the children of immigrants tend to vote for Labour. So it greatly helps Labour if they just open the borders and let in possibly even as many people as Rishi Sunak let in.
Is that definitely a thing? Because people believed that for a long time, but in America it turned out quite opposite. The immigrants came in and voted right, largely massive right.
They don't. Second and third generation quite often vote right wing. I mean, obviously you can see, Suella is an example of that. An East Asian,
there's a lot of people who don't want other people coming in from the countries that they came from because they remember what they ran away from. So that happens as well. So
but looking at it, that does happen with some people, but overall, without the sort of non-native vote, Labour would have really struggled in this election. So the incentive is there. And Labour...
You're suggesting they'll be deporting us, Leo, because that's what I'm hearing.
They'll probably just be making us illegal and putting us in...
well, it turns out that support is a bit fragile if they then don't go with the policies that the immigrants want them to go with, such as Free Palestine and so on. So.
Absolutely, and we saw that nearly unseat Wes Streeting and Jess Phillips. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail, and David Lammy isn't off to the best start as Foreign Secretary. He wants to fund a dodgy charity that apparently took part in a terrorist attack against Israeli civilians, which raises the question, was it a sponsored terror attack, Nick? Can't they just do a park run?
Yeah, well, I can't comment on that, but it's David Lammy could restart UK funding for UN aid body in Gaza, despite Israeli claims it's been infiltrated by Hamas and staff took part in October 7th atrocities. So now the question is there any evidence for this? So there's also there's been an independent review saying Israel provided no evidence to back up its claims. It certainly doesn't sound good. I mean, as we already said, Lammy was sending awful tweets to Donald Trump. He doesn't seem a great choice for Foreign Secretary, let's say. And so now, obviously, Labour have this issue of trying to not seem anti-Semitic. At the same time, they have a strong pro-Palestine vote, shall we say. And so they're calling it a diplomatic tightrope here because they've got to placate their hostile backbenchers, i.e. the nutters in the party who Starmer has to deal with. So it's a very tricky one. But if they did do this, it's appalling if they really did have Hamas infiltrate them. But the question is whether there's enough evidence of that.
Yes, there is.
OK, well, there's the answer.
Quite certainly. They're talking about one part here, which is typical, where they say Israel hasn't presented enough evidence for that. The evidence against UNRWA is huge. It has been for years. It is very well documented. One of the reasons that UNRWA was against Israel going into Gaza is because so much evidence would come out involving the ridiculous numbers of tunnels going into almost every school and hospital, weapons being hid in children's bedrooms, in all these different places. A member of UNRWA was hiding hostages and so on. And just recently, UNRWA headquarters has been found to contain weaponry that would feed a small army. They'd be quite happy with that. So, yes, if you look at the evidence, it is huge. And I think... And they just shouldn't exist. They started off as a peacekeeping force. There is a peacekeeping force for the United Nations and a separate one just for one group of people. Yeah. And what it was supposed to do years ago was rehouse every refugee. 90 million refugees at the time who had to... Muslims go to Muslim countries, Hindus to Hindu countries, Jews to Jewish countries, the Jewish country, etc., etc. But this one group, they made laws. Well, it was supposed to be Lebanon, wasn't it? They had their share of Lebanon. They were supposed to have more share, but that's all collapsed now and is now also a failed state.
It must be much better now. Lebanon must be much better because they got diversity.
Yeah, of course. They're really happy about that. Yeah.
Reliably informed.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on, we've got the Telegraph now, and the Trump shooting is being blamed on the female Secret Service chief being a diversity hire. But is it worth having a few assassination attempts if it means girls have an inspirational female figure to look up to, Kerry?
I don't care whether it's a female or a male, and I'm not misogynistic. I just think the best man should get the job. Look, I saw some of the tweets about this, and some of them I think are a bit over the top, but nevertheless, it doesn't look good, does it? It doesn't look good when you have security around a president who's actually shorter than the president, whilst people are shooting at him.
Yeah, some of these women are 5'3", and they're protecting a man who's 6'2".
Well, it's also, it was clowny. One of them couldn't put her gun back in the hole, so two of them bumped into each other. They were kind of running and looking all over the place. I think, in a sense, I think Trump wanted to get shot just so that three pretty girls would jump on top of him and drag him around with a big hug.
Like Colonel Gaddafi.
There are two, let's be honest, there are two things women shouldn't do. One is be pundits on male football, and the other one is protect presidents, right? and vote. Three things. There's three things. No.
Women can do anything, and I'm not joining in with this.
No, I agree with you completely. That was pure satire. It was just Leo texted it to me before the show. But the problem with DEI is when people can literally DIE, right? This is the problem we have here. This is taking diversity so far. I mean, she did have some background. She was at Pepsi, but OK, before that, she was a Secret Service agent. But it is madness, isn't it? It's the people making decisions at the top, pushing the diversity. Then it's the people on the ground who are too small.
Who would you want to protect you? Do you want a big guy?
I'd pick Leo.
Yeah, I'd pick Leo as well.
I would not take a bullet for you.
You'd take both of us?
Yeah, well, you'd have to. You'd be so big, you'd just be... I'd just hide behind.
If somebody threw a marshmallow, I wouldn't take that for you. I'd, like, get it away so it hit you. But, I mean, I think the problem with DEI, and you can see it in things like Marvel films, you can see that this forced diversity takes away from all the other good things, the storylines, the strong characters and all the rest of it, and you just get these clunky, leaden plot lines and dialogue that just exists to push, you know, this sort of ideologically driven...
Those fictional women are really strong, aren't they? I mean, they really set a good example, but it's a reality.
But when that same... You know, so it's ruined comedy, it's ruined Marvel, it's ruined so many things. But that's fine, because nobody dies from watching a Marvel film. But then when it translates into building aeroplanes or protecting presidents, people can die.
Certain kinds of diversity hires would actually work for this. If you had, like, 7-foot basketball players who were, like, black guys or something, and you're like, let's get all them in, but just not women, right? I think that was probably racist and sexist, so I think I'm really cancelled for...
I think it got a bit sexist in place. One of the women defending him did say that it was horrible the way the women were being criticised, and she said Tracy's been through a very hard time recently, and it's not right. I'm sorry. I'm leaving now.
Anyway, we're staying with Trump for the next story. It's the Times, and it looks like Trump just dodged another bullet, Nick.
Yep, judge dismisses Trump's classified documents case. And actually, this was, speaking of women, this was Eileen Cannon. And you don't always think that Trump plays that well with women, but she's dismissed the case, which is great. Well, I say it's great, but of course, we'll have to provide balance, and someone else will have to say it's bad. But this was they argued that the special counsel, Jack Smith, was unlawfully appointed, and his office was improperly funded by the Justice Department, and so it violated the appointments clause in the United States Constitution.
And this was relating to the criminal case around the Trump having classified documents at his house in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, which we all know he can do what he wants. He said, I have every right to have those boxes, and he can do it. He was a president. So it's a great thing for the country, I think, America, if, you know, Trump's just survived this terrible assassination attempt. Now he's surviving the lawfare. So I think people are so sick of this kind of thing. And I think the assassination attempt sort of makes it even more sickening, the way they've been attacking Trump with things like lawfare. I think the average person will say, can we just put away this whole nonsense?
Yeah, and it makes it look more transparent. You know, all these cases are really trumped up to, you know, not to do a terrible pun.
It makes him look strong, actually, that every attempt is happening, even though they're not responsible for the shooting that we know of anyway. But with the shooting, with all these court cases going on, it looks like every attempt is happening to get him to stop him.
Except for the one...
And he's riding it. I read someone on Twitter today saying that he got off on a technicality which sounded like he has a technicality fetish. You know, oh, God, I love technicality. But what's going on is there's a load of cases happening. There's 4 cases against him with results that depend on which state they're in, largely depending on which way that state tends to lean, I guess. And I imagine that on this one, the prosecution saw him come into the room and was really hoping by now he wasn't going to still be alive. But
bad luck for them. Anyway, that's part 2 done. Coming up, we've got J.K. Rowling happy with Labour's trans stance, the cenotaph vandalised by Gaza protesters, and the most racist headline you'll see this week, probably. See you in a couple of minutes.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain will continue in central areas overnight with rain warnings in force. But for many of us, it is going to be a mild night. We've got southwesterly winds as low pressure has been approaching from the southwest, and a band of rain is pivoting around this area of low pressure, bringing some very heavy rain to central areas of England, parts of Wales as well, where there's a rain warning in force until the early hours of Tuesday. We could see some localised flooding by tomorrow morning. Further north, it will remain largely dry overnight. There's quite a lot of cloud around though, so temperatures holding up into the mid-teens for most of us. So a fairly mild start to the day on Tuesday, but a pretty damp one for some of us, particularly where this heavy rain lingers, where that warning is still in force. However, for western areas of Scotland, it will likely be a bright start to the day, away from the far Northern Isles where some showers will move in. And across southwestern areas of Scotland, again, some brightness, dry for Northern Ireland, but this heavy rain will likely be affecting northern areas of England, North Wales, and potentially into the Midlands and the southwest as well. Still quite a lot of cloud around across the southeast too, and that rain's going to continue to pivot around and slowly clear away to the North Sea through Tuesday morning. We're also going to see some heavy showers break out across central areas of Scotland, northern England too, where there is a rain warning in force through much of Tuesday. But from the west, it will turn much drier and brighter as the day goes on Tuesday. So some brightness coming through, not feeling too bad in the sunshine. Temperatures in the high teens, low 20s at best. And as we head into Wednesday, that more settled weather becomes more widespread. So Wednesday is looking like a fine day for many of us. We could see the odd shower breaking out here and there, but for most of us, it should be dry and bright, and actually also feeling quite a bit warmer. Highs of around 25 degrees are expected on Wednesday across the south, potentially up to 26 degrees on Thursday. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Daily Mail now, and a lefty journalist has claimed that Trump will appeal more to black voters now that he's been shot. I mean, that's pretty racist, even if it might be true, Nick.
Yes, I mean, I saw this at the time. It's Forbes deletes article from DEI expert claiming Trump will be more appealing to black voters after surviving shooting. I couldn't believe this when they posted it. I thought, is this the Babylon Bee? No, it's Forbes. And it was absolutely, especially the timing. It was so soon after the assassination attempt. And it was like, hey, guys, will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters? And as you satirically point out, though, Leo, there have been very funny videos since. There's been like black stand-up comedians and other guys saying like, hey, I now love Trump. And there was 50 Cent saying, oh, I know how you feel because he's been shot. And there was a guy in the hood saying, come to the hood and you wouldn't get shot at again. We'll protect you. Stuff like this. There's all these kind of videos. So there is a kind of meme about it, and it is quite funny. But for Forbes to post this so soon after, though there is an argument, if you want to go there, that when Trump had the mugshot, the sort of idea was, oh yeah, this will appeal to black voters. But if you want to follow the left-wing argument, they are saying that black people get unfairly chased down by police and so on. So there is a sort of left-wing argument for saying, yeah, well, it would appeal to people then.
So they can cover themselves. But I mean, this guy, he's, as well as being a journalist who writes things about racist headlines like this, although it could have been picked by a sub-editor. He also advises more than 400 organisations about their diversity policies.
Sure, and he's a professor. Professor Sean Harper. Do you remember when professors were people we admired?
Yeah. A long time ago.
They've turned insane, haven't they? They go along with they're just people who pass on ideologies. Trump's support has gone up with black Americans more than doubled since the 2020 election. So I don't think this is a perfect explanation. He says, hopefully Trump doesn't claim his raised fist was a homage to Smith and Carlos, two powerful black Americans. Like, hopefully Trump doesn't claim
That's
that.
the weirdest bit. That's insane.
Odd thing to
That's
say.
properly
He probably haven't even thought of claiming that.
Two people that Trump hasn't heard of.
Yeah, the black power salute at the Olympics is what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an insane connection.
Yes.
With the guy getting up and fist pumping because he's nearly been shot. Trump's going, you know what, this will play well amongst the black demographic who remember the Olympics
It'd be more
of
Trump style.
1968.
It'd be more Trump style to say they were copying him, even though they did it first. He wouldn't stop at that.
I totally invented the fist pump. Yeah, insane.
But if that's what you've got to do to attract black voters, that's all right. Well, the thing is, this is racist. That view is racist.
Yeah.
He's got a view of black people and how black people think. To say that they need to have someone who's been shot to feel empathy with them. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So.
Well, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail now, and J.K. Rowling has praised Labour for continuing the Tories' puberty blocker ban, but it's already threatening to tear Labour apart, Kieran.
Yeah, OK, so this is J.K. Rowling, who, as we know, is one of this country's most successful fiction writers, who's constantly arguing with amateur fiction writers and the fiction they're putting out. And yes, well, Wes Streeting has just done a sensible thing, and it's refreshing in the sense that where you do expect a new government gets in and they want to undo absolutely everything the last government said and did. But he's being absolutely right about it, and for now, he also hit out highly irresponsible statements by critics. So some of the critics he's getting is accusing him of murdering people. He's evil. He's all the words that the same people would not say against Hamas because they'd find that offensive, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it's nice to see a minister not taking the typical knee-jerk reaction, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, some of these people, like Jolyon Mom, I think he's the leader of the Good Law Project. I mean, these are ostensibly credible people who, you know, have quite a sway and influence in society. And he's literally said that Labour are killing trans children, which is wildly inflammatory language and completely wrong.
It's extraordinary, yeah. There's that wing of the Labour Party as well, the Zara Sultana wing, who say this is terrible. They say similar things. Whereas the Wes Streeting side it's more the sensible side, isn't it? And Blair's said, look, a man is a man, a woman is a woman. He still has a lot of influence in the party. Starmer's obviously listened to that. It was a bit shaky on this issue before. So obviously the line in the party is, right, we're ditching that nonsense. We're being strong on this puberty blockers issue. But you've got the left of the party who is still mental, so that's going to be the challenge for them.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Although maybe we should just let, you know, kids transition, because it's always the kids of these insufferable parents. And, you know, I'd quite like, you know, the Christmases they have in 10 years' time to be really awkward because they railroaded their child into this ill-advised transition.
You're playing the long game, Leo.
Yeah.
Revenge is a dish best.
Someone's got to make decisions now, you know.
Revenge is the best dish best served cold at Christmas in 10 years, according to Leo.
You're ruining Leo's fun.
We got the Express now, and anti-Israel protesters have vandalised the cenotaph. In any other country, this would lead to a severe beating by police, but as it's Britain, I assume they've already been appointed as advisors to the government, Nick.
Well, they've actually been arrested, but, I mean, you're close. Yeah, it's abhorrent pro-Palestine protesters blasted as they vandalised cenotaph, and it is pretty appalling. Of course, one of them's called Olivia, and that's about the minimum level posh name you get, you know what I mean? It's normally even more ridiculous than that.
Oh, we've got footage here.
There they are, yeah.
Spraying the cenotaph with the red paint. They've put near the cenotaph. Yeah. And they've put a Palestinian flag there as well.
Well, I'm a moderate on this. I can sort of see both sides. If you're a foreign national, you should be deported. If you're from here, you should be put in prison for life. I'm a moderate on the cenotaph.
Deported.
Yes. So, like I say, I'm a sort of sensible centrist on the cenotaph issue. Because, like you say, this is such an important monument to us. It's desecrating it, even if you think you're making a point, which of course they do, about genocide and so on. It's just inexcusable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no genocide there, and the people who died that the cenotaph is commemorating actually fought to prevent genocide.
Yeah,
correct.
I kind of agree with them, though, because I think it makes sense to hate our culture and government and support a terrorist government who brought their people into a ridiculous war that's getting them all killed, and support a whole load of petro-states and slave countries like Qatar. Yes, how very good of them and how very thoughtful. They also don't care about genocides. There's 4 massive and unquestionable genocides going on at the moment, and they don't have a single word to say about anything that's actually a genocide that doesn't suit them. They're also written down in the cenotaph spraying 150,000 killed. This number is actually it's actually now that they've gone down a bit from the 186,000, which is doing the rounds at the moment,
right,
and being published everywhere. And where that number comes from, it was not a study, was not any information other than a letter written to the Lancet, which was non-peer reviewed, which they shouldn't have published in the first place.
Yeah.
It was just a letters page where someone took the upper figure put out by Hamas, which even then has been questioned by the certainly non-Israel supporting UN, who brought down the number significantly. So he's taken this guy in his letter, took the upper figure, then multiplied it by a figure that made no sense anyway, and then added in what he thinks the future figures could be if the war carried on at the same rate it's going on, and he reached a figure of 186,000. And this is being published all over the place. This is we're seeing it now as if it's the new fact.
And that's ludicrous. And also the people who complain that, you know, there have been so many deaths in Gaza, and obviously it's, you know, it's tragic that civilians have died there. But we've got to remember that a huge portion of that figure is Hamas fighters who are combatants.
Yes, of course.
You know, that's not a tragedy. I mean, unless you really like Hamas, which a lot of people do. Yeah. Well, we've got the Times now, and Putin is acting like a Western leader and banning a tech platform, Kiri.
Yes, he's... well, they're planning on banning YouTube because, of course, that allows people in their country to hear things that they're supposed to be protected from. They're not planning on stopping TikTok, Chinese-owned, of course, which tends to favour news that China likes. You know, there was a study done on that, and it's extreme. So that, you know, they made it a crime punishable by up to 15 years in prison to distribute fake news. I think that's hilarious that Russia has done that. Russia is against fake news, of course. They put a lot of money and effort into it. They have their own channel. It's called RuTube, which just isn't what you expect it to be. I think that turns out to be a hell of a letdown, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that it wasn't already banned. I mean, YouTube blocks YouTube. Do you know what I mean? They sort of censor people on their own platform. It's one of the most pro-censorship platforms there is. But I'm surprised Putin hadn't got rid of it. I mean, Russia banned Facebook and called it extremist. I mean, when you're right, you're right. But, I mean, it's in a different way, as you said. But all I can say is it's a good thing they've got really good novelists in Russia, because they're not going to have anything to watch on the internet. But luckily, they've got War and Peace to get to. They've got Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Gogol, Pushkin. They can just read again. It'd be amazing.
And they'll be smarter than us when we're...
Which they probably already are, but even smarter.
Videos of people falling over on skateboards. But are you worried that the Labour government are going to clamp down on online? I mean, they always say online misinformation and disinformation, but really what that means is dissenting voices.
I am worried. I'm worried the only podcast that will be allowed will be Alistair Campbell's, because he has Rory Stewart on for massive amounts of balance, whereas everyone else is going to have an opposing view, because Ofcom's going to rule all podcasts. This is my dystopian vision.
Yeah, don't give them ideas.
I know, I'm worried about giving them ideas.
We've got the Times now before the break with new mothers complaining that NHS midwives treated them with a lack of respect. So it's not just the receptionists, Nick.
Yeah, I might have ended on the funny one. This one is horrible. It's NHS staff treated birthing mothers with a lack of respect, and it's some quite shocking things, like if they want a caesarean, they can't get one, or if they don't want one, they are sort of encouraged to have one and to sign for it when they're in no fit state to do so. And there's some really shocking stories. Now, I do understand sometimes these things might be medically necessary, but there are horrible stories in here of, you know, people requesting caesareans being denied, then going through incredible trauma, or they're sort of half passed out, covered in blood, and then told to sign something.
Yeah.
And I understand that, like I said, in rare cases this may be necessary, but it was kind of shocking to read. And the kind of lack of care. You don't know who the NHS are hiring, of course, do you? And they may just be people who... We hear about this with old age and care and things like that. There's sort of lack of care for people, and that's what came across in this.
I've got personal experience of this. My wife had a baby a couple of years ago, and they basically told us, we're coming near the end of the shift, so we need to get this baby out.
Wow.
And so they were like, we need to do an episiotomy to get this baby out. And they were like, you know, suddenly did all the drugs and everything, like whipped the baby out super quick. But it was strange, because this isn't, you know, I hadn't taken the Audi in for a service. This was a human being, you know?
Yeah, and 16% of women said they were subjected to that procedure without being told, what you just mentioned. Wow.
Yes, and it's affected half of women, apparently, which... the lower half, I assume, but I mean, the point is, it's already intrusive enough, isn't it? But I'm sure there are times where an emergency procedure is necessary.
That's
but,
so good. We rarely hear a proper joke on this show. We work with Lewis Schaefer, so it's amazing to hear a joke.
What we need is a campaign for doctors to say to each other, mate,
That's a great idea, with 3 A's in the middle. May. Yeah.
Yes.
OK, well, it's just
bad.
the final section to go, and it's going to be a corker with Elon Musk's real-life Iron Man suit and sex on death row. See you in a couple of minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm joined now by Stefan Kyriasis to give us the latest on everything theatre.
So, yeah, we're going in first with Starlight Express, which is back. It's not in the West End. It's out at Wembley at the Troubadour Theatre, which is a big, almost kind of warehouse space, which suits because, as you know, have you seen the show?
Starlight Express was my first ever musical. I must have been about 7 or 8 years old. I only saw it once, but I remember it being magical.
Well, this one, it's 1984 it started, and it's still running in Bochum in Germany in a huge arena. So basically what we've got, they've slightly tweaked it, and there's a little boy or little girl, depending on the cast, going to bed, obsessed with toy trains and dreaming of trains. Everybody is dressed up. To me, it looks like a cross between Tron and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I don't really think any of them look remotely like a train, but hey, the songs are Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's pop mixed with kind of cod 1950s rock and roll, some power ballads. The lyrics are politely like something out of an old speak and spell machine or something, you know. He's a steam train, they're out of date, he's being bullied by the diesel and the electric, and he falls for this carriage, the first-class carriage, new girl Pearl, and he wants to impress her, so he enters a race, and that's pretty much it. And when the races happen, all these barriers come up around where we're sitting, the lights are flashing, the music's thumping. It's utterly ridiculous, and I felt like a kind of teenager that was huffing sherbet dib-dabs off a giant block of sugar. It's so much fun, and the really crucial thing about it all is that somehow, in the middle of all of that, I felt myself getting into the story. And when Pearl and Rusty have their little duet, I was very moved. And there's this big starlight sequence, which is the inspiration, the magical starlight that he's seeking. It's beautiful.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final section of headliners. We've got the Sun now, and Elon Musk has a typically outlandish solution to the threat of assassination, Kerry.
Might be a bit over the top, really, isn't it? He's talking about building an Iron Man outfit, I should say. Not, I don't know why I said that. Sometimes I just say things, you know, it happens. But he's an Iron Man outfit for Trump after the assassination attempt. If anyone doesn't know who Iron Man is, he's a superhero who, despite his name, is actually really bad at pressing shirts. Now, this isn't. It's interesting, and they talk about this in a way of is Iron Man with his superhuman strength and godly ability of flight. God doesn't fly; he's everywhere. He has no need to fly whatsoever. Yeah. And then the story is asking whether it's even possible to build a suit that gives a metal suit that gives someone extra strength, speed, agility, endurance, and the ability to fly. And of course, we already can do that. They're called cars and aeroplanes.
Oh yeah.
So
very cynical.
This for a very long time. But I don't know. I think really we could start with just taller security guards.
Good start. But the fact that this comes after Musk had 2 attempts on his own life in the past 8 months, that's so shocking. I mean, Elon Musk, think about it. This is the pure politicisation of everything and the sort of hyped-up political culture, because when he was the guy that made the cool cars and was going to space, no one's like, I'm going to kill that guy. Don't want to go to space and have cool cars, right? So it's so obviously the minute he becomes political, it's like, right, we're just going to kill him. I find it so appalling that that's the culture in America. So of course he needs the Iron Man suit.
I'm not sure I could handle a flying armoured Trump.
That's what we need. Mega Trump.
We've got the Daily Star.
Mega Trump.
We've got the Daily Star now, and it sounds like men on death row are more optimistic about finding a woman than you are, Nick.
That's actually technically correct, yes. Death row inmates looking for love before last meal, including Ku Klux Klan racist, who apparently is still more eligible than me, incredibly. But yeah,
sounds a lot like you.
Yeah, well. Hey, no, don't talk about those messages. The three men... So they've all set up dating profiles, these three men they're talking about, on this pen pal site called Wire of Hope. Strangely named. I don't know if that's the whole electric chair vibe they're going for there. Interesting name. One of them is known for being a Ku Klux Klan racist. It says if that wasn't a big enough red flag, he's also a murderer whose grisly story was told on Netflix I Am a Killer in an episode called The Bogeyman. But actually, that's where he's winning, because women love that stuff. We all know they love a serial killer documentary.
They'd rather be alone with a bear in the wood than with, like...
Correct.
Than with, like, Bear Grylls or a man who can, like, catch some food for them.
Look at Ted Bundy. He had, like, a loyal girlfriend to the end. Like, I think he's OK. What are you talking about? But women love it.
Yes, it's a strange phenomenon. And really, if you're on a dating site and you're a guy, change your profile. Reading, I like swimming and murder. You know? I like murdering people. And your chances
he's
will go
so exciting.
Straight, yeah, absolutely. The psychology behind it is that for some women, they see these murderers as strong. For some, it taps a female desire to change a man. You know, that I can make him better.
Is that in the article?
And I read this in a site, but the idea is, the psychology belief is he is as bad as it gets. You can only make him better.
It's the most possible. It's the biggest project.
Yeah.
The biggest possible project.
He didn't murder today, and that was me. You know?
We've got the Times now with an example of how women can get thousands of pounds by moaning about colleagues. Maybe this is why there's a gender pay gap, Kerry.
It's the most misogynist episode we've ever done.
But only in a fun way, right? We don't mean it, guys. Guys.
Where does it work with the material given to us?
The rugby star's father, this is Kevin Davies, and it's relevant that he's a father of a rugby player, obviously, because otherwise it wouldn't matter. But what it was a woman who's suffering with psoriasis, arthritis, and autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
And he, at the beginning of the pandemic, he coughed in her face, and as a result now, she's been given £26,000. And they managed to write this whole story without saying he had to cough up £26,000, which is pretty impressive in itself for the media, but then it is the Times of
Well, let's just sneak in this last story. We've got the Daily Mail now with a guy who lets medical companies give him dangerous injections for money. Sounds like the pandemic, except he's getting paid, Nick.
Yes, I was injected with COVID virus for £4,500, and so was this guy, weirdly. Meet the human guinea pigs deliberately infected with potentially fatal diseases. So... yeah, this was a guy... I mean, this is not really a new thing, of course, is it? People doing medical tests. But in March 2021, this guy, Jacob Hopkins, became the first person to be given COVID, you know, through his nose. Funnily enough, he contracted COVID. It worked. And the idea is, it made us learn things like people get symptoms within 2 days of contact, blah, blah, blah. So basically, they're kind of idiot heroes.
Yeah.
That he's kind of taking one for the team on a massive scale.
He's young and healthy, but he could have saved some vulnerable old people's lives.
Men who are desperate for money can't really sell their bodies in the same way as women can. It's a way of going around it.
They do this.
Put a bit of disease in me.
The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. Sorry to cut you off, Katie. You'll have to tweet it out after, and I'll say what they said. We've got the Daily Mail leading with now doctors told to lecture us on climate change. The Guardian has Trump hits out at witch hunts despite pledge to unite nation. I don't know why that contradicts it, but the Guardian think it does. The Times says Trump races ahead in key states after shooting. The Express has body found in Huntford J who fell in accident. The iNews has Starmer and Trump start building their special relationship. And finally, the Daily Star has I natter with my dearly departed Doddy every day. And those are your front pages. And that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Kerry and Nick. Andrew Doyle will be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Kerry and Josh Howie. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Heavy rain will continue in central areas overnight with rain warnings in force. But for many of us, it is going to be a mild night. We've got southwesterly winds as low pressure has been approaching from the southwest, and a band of rain is pivoting around this area of low pressure, bringing some very heavy rain to central areas of England, parts of Wales as well, where there's a rain warning in force until the early hours of Tuesday. We could see some localised flooding by tomorrow morning. Further north, it will remain largely dry overnight. There's quite a lot of cloud around though, so temperatures holding up into the mid-teens for most of us. So a fairly mild start to the day on Tuesday, but a pretty damp one for some of us, particularly where this heavy rain lingers, where that warning is still in force. However, for western areas of Scotland, it will likely be a bright start to the day, away from the far Northern Isles where some showers will move in. And across southwestern areas of Scotland, again, some brightness, dry for Northern Ireland, but this heavy rain will likely be affecting northern areas of England, North Wales, and potentially into the Midlands and the southwest as well. Still quite a lot of cloud around across the southeast too, and that rain's going to continue to pivot around and slowly clear away to the North Sea through Tuesday morning. We're also going to see some heavy showers break out across central areas of Scotland, northern England too, where there is a rain warning in force through much of Tuesday. But from the west, it will turn much drier and brighter as the day goes on Tuesday. So some brightness coming through, not feeling too bad in the sunshine. Temperatures in the high teens, low 20s at best. And as we head into Wednesday, that's more settled weather becomes more widespread. So Wednesday is looking like a fine day for many of us. We could see the odd shower breaking out here and there, but for most of us, it should be dry and bright, and actually also feeling quite a bit warmer. Highs of around 25 degrees are expected on Wednesday across the south, potentially up to 26